The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Defense Coalition headquarters gleamed under 3 different suns. Inside the war chamber, representatives from 47 species gathered around a holographic display showing the latest threat assessments. The air hummed with translated voices, clicking sounds, and the occasional roar from the more aggressive delegates. Commander Hyun-Woo Kim adjusted his crisp Navy uniform as he walked to the center podium. The human delegation consisted of only 3 officers dwarfed by the towering aliens surrounding them. Some delegates had multiple arms, others floated in mechanical suits, and a few resembled walking trees with glowing bark. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing in common. They looked down on humanity. "Order, order," boomed the session leader, a massive creature whose voice sounded like grinding stone. The human representative will now present their fleet assessment. Hyun-Woo activated his datapad, and holographic images of human warships appeared above the assembly. The sleek destroyers, heavy cruisers, and battleships rotated slowly, their details clearly visible. "Honored delegates," Hyun-Woo began, "our intelligence reports indicate increasing Veltar aggression along the Outer Rim colonies. Human vessels have encountered situations where ships continue operating beyond normal tactical parameters." Ambassador Veltar's insectoid form clicked forward on 6 spindly legs. His compound eyes reflected the light as his mandibles chattered in what passed for laughter among his species. "Commander Kim, are you seriously presenting these ghost stories as military intelligence?" A ripple of chittering and mechanical sounds filled the chamber as other delegates joined in the amusement. The Zephyrian representative, a floating, jellyfish-like creature in a containment suit, pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that translated to mockery. "Please elaborate on these fairy tales," Veltar continued, his translator giving his voice a tinny quality. "Your reports mention ships that fight after their crews are dead, vessels that refuse to surrender even when completely destroyed. Do you expect this council to believe such nonsense?" Hyun-Woo felt his jaw muscles tighten, but kept his voice steady. "Ambassador, human naval traditions stretch back centuries on our homeworld. When we commission a vessel, we don't just assign it a number. We give it a name, a history, a purpose. The crew becomes part of that ship's soul." General Mordak, a 7-foot reptilian with scales that shifted color with his emotions, rose from his seat. His hide rippled from green to deep red as he spoke. "Soul. You speak of machinery having a soul." His forked tongue flicked out in disgust. "This emotional attachment to inanimate objects is precisely why humanity remains a third-rate power in this galaxy." The general's words triggered another wave of alien laughter. The crystalline collective representative chimed like breaking glass while the robotic Nexus delegate's optical sensors flashed in calculated amusement patterns. Captain Yunji Park, seated in the human section, clenched her fists under the table. She had served aboard the heavy cruiser Indomitable for 5 years and knew the truth behind the stories. She leaned toward Lieutenant Commander Min Ho-yoon and whispered, "They think we're primitives playing with toys. The Veltar Empire has conquered 17 systems in the past year," Mordak continued, his scales now a deep crimson. "They use quantum-enhanced weapons, molecular disruptors, and reality-warping shields. Your human ships still use chemical propulsion and kinetic weapons. You name them like pets and expect them to perform miracles." A mechanical voice from the Nexus delegate cut through the chamber. "Analysis indicates human emotional investment in equipment reduces tactical efficiency by 37%. Recommendation: eliminate naming protocols and treat vessels as expendable resources." Hyun-Woo stepped forward, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Respectfully, delegates, you misunderstand the nature of human service. When a crew serves aboard a vessel, they don't just operate systems. They become part of something larger. The ship carries their hopes, their sacrifices, their determination to protect what matters." "Sentimental garbage," spat a delegate from the Hive Collective, her multiple heads speaking in unison. "Ships are tools, crews are replaceable. Victory comes from superior technology and ruthless efficiency." The session leader's massive form shifted, causing small tremors through the floor. "Commander Kim, while your cultural practices are noted, this council requires practical military assessments. Can human forces effectively counter Veltar expansion or not? Before Hyunwoo could respond, Ambassador Veltar's mandibles clicked, rapidly in excitement. Perhaps we should hear more of these human legends. Tell us about ships that sail through space after death, carrying ghost crews on impossible missions. His compound eyes glittered with malicious amusement. The chamber erupted in alien laughter once again. Some delegates made sounds like breaking machinery. Others produced harmonics that hurt human ears, and a few simply flashed their bioluminescent organs in patterns of derision. Captain Yoonji Park stood slowly, her chair scraping against the crystal floor. The sound cut through the laughter like a blade. You want to hear about human ships, Ambassador? I'll tell you about the destroyer Soul's Pride, which held off an entire pirate fleet for 6 hours after losing main power. Or the frigate Mountain, Wind, which continued fighting with half her crew dead and her bridge exposed to vacuum. Impossible, declared the Crystalline Collective. Vessels cannot function without conscious operators. Kyonji's eyes hardened. You measure everything by logic and programming. You can't understand what happens when a crew would rather die than let their ship fall, when every bolt, every wire, every plate of armor becomes sacred because good people bled to keep it flying. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Veltar's chittering laughter resumed, louder than before. How wonderfully primitive. Next you'll claim your ships develop consciousness and fight battles by themselves. They'll learn soon enough. Aeunji whispered to herself, her words barely audible above the alien mockery. The meeting concluded with humanity's warnings dismissed as superstition. The alien delegates filed out, discussing advanced weapon systems and conquest strategies. They returned to their fleets confident in their technological superiority, never suspecting that in the depths of space, some myths were already preparing to become terrible, beautiful reality. The warning klaxons screamed across Kepler Station as massive tears in space-time ripped open like wounds in reality itself. Through these hyperspace portals emerged the Veltar Armada, their ships gleaming, like deadly insects under the system's twin stars. 50 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls covered in chitinous armor that shifted and moved like living skin. Captain Do-hyun Lee stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Indomitable, watching the enemy fleet deploy through the main view screen. The old ship had served the Earth Navy for 23 years, her hull scarred from countless battles along the frontier. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency, their faces grim but determined. "Captain, we're getting mass readings on those Veltar vessels," reported Ensign Taejun Park from the sensor station. "Their flagship alone masses 3 times what we do. Those aren't just warships, sir. They're floating fortresses." Do-hyun nodded, studying the tactical display. The enemy ships resembled massive beetles, their weapons ports opening and closing like hungry mouths. Veltar technology was organic in nature, grown rather than built, and their vessels could heal damage and adapt to enemy tactics in real time. "Signal. Other destroyers," Do-hyun ordered. "All ships form up on my position. We make our stand here." The destroyer Courage pulled alongside, her captain's face appearing on the communication screen. Commander Sung-ho Kim looked young for his rank, but his eyes held the steady resolve of a career officer. "Orders, sir." "We hold the line, Sung-ho. No matter what happens, we protect the station. Those are 20,000 civilians behind us, including families and children. The evacuation ships won't clear the system for another 4 hours. Commander Yeon-soo Han of the destroyer Defiance joined the channel. "Sir, intelligence reports say Veltar ships can regenerate damage. Our conventional weapons might not be." "Enough." Do-hyun's weathered face hardened. "Then we'll have to hit them harder than they can heal. All ships load armor-piercing rounds and prepare for close engagement. We're going to take this fight right to them." The Veltar Armada began its approach, moving with the coordinated precision of a hive mind, their weapons charged with crackling energy, bioelectric discharges dancing along their hulls like lightning. The space between the fleets filled with tension as both sides prepared for battle. Lieutenant Ji-hee Cho, the Indomitable's tactical officer, called out from her station. "Enemy ships are launching fighter craft, sir. Looks like organic vessels similar to their motherships but smaller." Through the view screen, swarms of Veltar fighters poured from launch bays like angry hornets. These weren't mechanical craft, but living creatures bred for war, their chitinous wings propelling them through the vacuum of space with impossible. "Grace, launch our interceptors," Do-hyun commanded. "All gun crews to battle stations. This is it, people. For Earth, for the colonies, for everyone counting on us today." The human fighters launched from the 3 ships, their pilots knowing they were outnumbered 10-1. Lieutenant Commander Bo Ram-yoon led the squadron, his voice crackling over the radio. "All pilots, stay tight and watch each other's backs. We're going to show these bugs what human courage looks like." The first wave of combat erupted in a symphony of destruction. Plasma bolts and energy beams crisscrossed the void as the 2 fleets engaged. The human ships wove between massive asteroids, using the rocky cover to avoid the worst of the enemy. Fire! The Indomitable's guns thundered, sending streams of projectiles toward the advancing Veltar vessels. Commander Sung-ho Kim's voice came through the communication system, tight with concentration. "Scoring hits on the enemy flagship, but their hull is already regenerating. These things heal faster than we can damage them." The Veltar response was swift and brutal. Concentrated fire from a dozen enemy ships focused on the destroyer Courage. Her shields flared and died under the assault, and then the organic weapons found their mark. The ship's hull cracked and split as bioacid ate through the armor plating. "Courage is taking heavy damage," reported Ji-hai, her voice steady despite watching friends die. "They're trying to break off, but the enemy has them surrounded." Do-hyun watched helplessly as the destroyer fought valiantly against impossible odds. Courage's guns never stopped firing, even as atmosphere vented from multiple hull breaches. The ship's death throes lit up space with explosions and sparks. "This is Commander Kim," came the final transmission from Courage. "Tell my family, I died fighting for humanity." The destroyer vanished in a brilliant flash that momentarily lit up the entire asteroid field. 30 good men and women gone in an instant, their sacrifice buying precious seconds for the survivors. "Sir, Defiance is under heavy attack," Ji-hai called out. Multiple enemy ships converging on her position. The second destroyer fought with desperate fury, her weapons blazing as she tried to break free from the Veltar trap. But the enemy ships moved like living things, their organic hulls flowing around damage and their weapons adapting to each defensive move. Commander Yeon Soo-han's voice crackled through static-filled communications. "Indomitable. We can't shake. Them? Our engines are failing and weapon systems are going offline. It's been an honor serving with you all." The Defiance's hull cracked like an eggshell under the combined firepower of 6 Veltar warships. Her reactor core breached, sending cascading explosions through her superstructure. The destroyer broke. Apart in a shower of debris and flame, her crew joining their comrades in death. Lieutenant Ji-hai Cho turned from her console, her young face pale but resolute. "Sir, we're alone now. All fighters destroyed, both destroyers gone. It's just us against their entire fleet." Do-hyun Lee looked around his bridge at the men and women who had chosen to stay and fight. Engineer Won-seok Park worked frantically to keep power flowing to the weapons. Communications Officer Da-yoon Shin coordinated damage control teams throughout the ship. Medical Officer Hyun-jung Lee tended to the wounded while knowing more casualties were coming. "Then we fight alone," Do-hyun said quietly, his words carrying the weight of a death sentence. "All hands, this is the captain. We're the last ship standing between the enemy and 20,000 innocent lives. We're going to hold this line until our last breath." The Indomitable's guns roared defiance as 50 enemy ships closed in for the kill. Plasma bolts hammered her shields, and bioacid weapons ate through her armor. Hull breaches opened like wounds, venting precious atmosphere into the cold vacuum of space. Fires broke out on multiple decks as the old ship absorbed punishment that should have destroyed her 10 times over. The medical bay filled with casualties, then overflowed as more crew members fell to enemy fire and system failures. The lights flickered as power conduits failed, but somehow the guns kept firing. "Hull integrity down to 30%, reported Engineer Won-seok, his voice strained. "We've lost main power on decks 6 through 9. Life support is failing in multiple sections." Do-hyun felt the ship shudder around him as another wave of enemy fire found its mark. The Indomitable was dying, but she wasn't going quietly. Her guns continued to thunder, and her engines still pushed her forward into the teeth of the enemy formation. Sir, Jihai called out, wonder creeping into her voice despite the desperate situation. We're still accelerating. Engine readings show power levels that shouldn't be possible with our current damage. Through the smoke and sparks of his dying bridge, Do-hyun Lee smiled grimly. The old ship was fighting beyond her limits, beyond logic, beyond death itself. Somewhere in her wounded hull, something had awakened that the galaxy wasn't ready to understand. Admiral Veltar's compound eyes reflected the tactical display as he studied the impossible readings. His flagship's organic hull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated confusion and growing fear. Around him, his bridge crew worked at stations that resembled living coral, their chitinous fingers dancing across controls that responded to bioelectric impulses. "Status report on the human vessel," Veltar commanded, his mandibles clicking with agitation. The flagship's sensors were the most advanced in the Veltar fleet, capable of detecting life signs through heavy shielding and analyzing molecular structures from light years away. Sub-Commander Zekthul approached the admiral's command throne, his 6 legs moving in nervous patterns. "Sir, our readings indicate total life support failure aboard the human cruiser. Atmospheric pressure has dropped to 0 across all decks. Internal temperature readings show conditions incompatible with human survival." Veltar's head tilted, at an unnatural angle, a gesture that would have seemed broken to human observers. Yet the vessel continues to maneuver. Explain this contradiction. The tactical display showed the Indomitable drifting through the asteroid field like a ghost ship. Her hull was a patchwork of damage, with massive tears exposing inner compartments to the vacuum of space. Debris trailed behind her in a glittering cloud of metal fragments and frozen atmosphere. By every logical measure, the ship should have been nothing more than a derelict hulk. "Admiral," called out the sensor operator, his voice carrying harmonics of distress. "I'm detecting weapon charging sequences. The human ship is preparing to fire again." Through the main view screen, they watched the Indomitable's gun turrets rotate with mechanical precision. The massive cannons aligned with deadly accuracy toward a Veltar destroyer that had moved too close to investigate the apparently dead vessel. The targeting was perfect, compensating for drift, rotation, and the relative motion of both ships. "Impossible," Veltar hissed. "Their fire control systems require active crew input. No automated system can achieve such precision without constant adjustment and monitoring." The Indomitable's guns thundered in the silence of space, sending streams of armor-piercing rounds toward the unsuspecting destroyer. The Veltar ship's organic armor rippled as it tried to adapt, but the human weapons punched through with devastating effect. Atmosphere vented from the enemy vessel as its crew scrambled to contain the damage. Commander Morthek, Veltar's chief tactical officer, approached with sensor readings that made no sense. "Sir, energy output from the human vessel has increased by 40% since we last measured it. This contradicts all known laws of physics. A damaged ship cannot generate more power than when it was intact." The readings showed power signatures unlike anything in the Veltar database. The energy patterns seemed to pulse with rhythm, almost like a massive heartbeat. The ship's reactor core should have been operating at minimal levels to prevent overload, yet somehow it was producing energy beyond its original design specifications. "Analysis of the power source?" Veltar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The energy doesn't match fusion, antimatter, or quantum tap signatures. It's something we've never encountered before." On the view screen, the Indomitable changed course with purpose. Her engines fired in controlled bursts, maneuvering her through the debris field with the skill of an experienced pilot. But according to their sensors, no one was alive aboard the vessel to operate the navigation systems. "Admiral," the communications officer's voice carried notes of fear. "We're receiving a transmission from the human ship." "Put it through," Veltar ordered, though his mandibles clicked nervously. The bridge speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a human voice singing in their ancient language. The melody was haunting and slow, rising and falling like the rhythm of ocean waves. The Veltar crew had never heard anything like it, but somehow they understood it was a song of mourning and defiance. "What is that sound?" whispered Sub-Commander Zekthul. "It appears to be a human naval hymn," replied the communications officer. "Our translation systems identify it as Eternal Father Strong to Save." It's traditionally sung at human military funerals. The temperature on the flagship's bridge began to drop, despite the environmental controls operating normally. Frost formed on the organic surfaces, and several crew members stepped back from their stations as an unexplainable chill filled the air. "Sir," called out the sensor operator, his voice shaking, "I'm detecting multiple heat signatures aboard the human vessel, but they don't match any known life-form readings. The patterns are wrong somehow." Through their advanced sensors, the Veltar could see into the damaged human ship. Corridors that should have been empty showed movement. Shadows passed through sections where no living being could survive. The bridge, which had been completely destroyed by weapons fire, somehow showed the ghostly outlines of figures working at stations that no longer existed. "Are you telling me?" Veltar's voice dropped to a whisper that barely registered on the ship's audio systems, that a dead crew is operating a dead ship. Before anyone could answer, the Indomitable turned directly toward their flagship. Her weapons began charging with energy patterns that looked like flowing fire. The human vessel accelerated through the asteroid field, weaving between rocky obstacles, with impossible grace for a ship that should have been uncontrollable. "Evasive maneuvers," Veltar commanded, but his voice carried uncertainty that his crew had never heard before. The flagship's organic engines pulsed with bioelectric energy, but the massive vessel was too large to maneuver quickly. The Indomitable closed the distance with predatory intent, her guns tracking the Veltar ship's movement with mechanical perfection. "Sir, the human vessel is hailing us again," reported the communications officer. This time the transmission was different. Instead of singing, they heard the voice of a human male speaking in clear, measured tones. "This is Captain Do-hyun Lee of the Earth Navy ship Indomitable. You have attacked our people. You have killed our friends. You will answer for these crimes." Veltar's compound eyes focused on the tactical display. "Captain Lee was killed when their bridge was destroyed. We confirmed his death signature 23 minutes ago." The communications continued, now joined by other voices. "This is Commander Sung-Ho Kim of the destroyer Courage. We stand with the Indomitable." Then another. "Commander Yeon-Soo Han, destroyer Defiance. We remember our duty." The voices of the dead crew members filled the Veltar bridge, speaking in calm, determined tones that chilled the alien officers to their core. Each voice belonged to someone who had died in the battle, yet somehow they continued to serve aboard their ship. "Admiral," the tactical officer's voice broke with fear. "The human ship is charging weapons. All gun batteries are targeting our position. Estimated time to firing solution, 30 seconds. Veltar stared at the view screen as the impossible human vessel bore down on them. Her hull glowed with energy that seemed to come from within, like a dying star refusing to go dark. The ship moved with purpose and intelligence that no mere machine could possess. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Veltar ordered, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. The Veltar fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts, bioacid weapons, and quantum disruptors hammered the Indomitable from all sides. The human ship's shields flared and died, and her hull took direct hits that should have vaporized any normal vessel. But the Indomitable didn't die. Instead, she seemed to absorb the energy of the attacks, growing brighter and more dangerous with each hit. Her guns fired back with fury that spoke of vengeance beyond the grave, and her aim never missed. As Veltar watched his seemingly certain victory transform into a nightmare, he finally understood what the humans had tried to tell the Council. Some ships carried more than crews and weapons. They carried souls, and some souls refused to rest while their duty remained unfulfilled. The dead ship continued its hunt, and the living began to fear what they had awakened in the darkness between the stars. Captain Sungmin Park gripped the armrests of his command chair as his heavy cruiser, Soul's Honor, emerged from hyperspace. The rescue fleet had arrived expecting to find debris and survivors, but instead, they witnessed something that challenged everything they knew about warfare and death itself. "Captain, are you seeing this?" asked Commander In-Ho Kim, his voice filled with awe and terror. The tactical display showed readings that made no sense according to any known physics. Through the main view screen, they watched the Indomitable hunting through the Veltar fleet like a shark among minnows. The ghost ship appeared from behind a massive asteroid. her guns blazing as she tore into an enemy destroyer. The Veltar vessel's organic armor tried to regenerate, but the human weapons seemed to burn with an energy that prevented healing. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Sujin Lee from the sensor station, her young face pale with confusion. "I'm tracking the Indomitable on multiple vectors simultaneously. The computer shows her engaging 3 different enemy ships at the same time, but that's impossible." Sungmin studied the tactical readouts carefully. The ghost ship's energy signature appeared in different locations across the battlefield, each manifestation fighting with the same deadly precision. It was as if the vessel had learned to exist in multiple places at once, defying the basic laws of space and time. On one flank of the battle, the Indomitable materialized beside a Veltar cruiser, her port batteries unleashing a devastating broadside. That cracked the enemy hull like an eggshell. Simultaneously, on the opposite side of the asteroid field, another manifestation of the same ship crippled an enemy frigate with surgical strikes to its engine compartments. "How is she doing this?" whispered Navigation Officer Jae-won Park. "It's like she's everywhere at once." The answer came from the science station, where Dr. Min Jung-yoon worked frantically over her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum field fluctuations around the Indomitable, unlike anything in our databases. The ship appears to be existing, in a state of quantum superposition, allowing her to occupy multiple probability states simultaneously." Sungmin frowned. "In simple terms, Doctor, she's become something that exists between life and death, sir. The ship and her crew have transcended normal physical limitations. They're fighting from beyond the grave." Through the chaos of battle, they could hear radio transmissions from the panicking Veltar fleet. The alien voices, translated by their computers, told a story of growing terror and confusion. "Command vessel to all ships," came Admiral Veltar's strained voice. "The human vessel is attacking destroyer Kethmore while simultaneously engaging cruiser Velthak. This is impossible." "Admiral," replied another Veltar captain, his voice breaking with fear, "we're seeing things that cannot be real. The faces of dead humans appear in our viewports, staring at us with eyes that burn like stars. Our crew is beginning to lose their minds." Commander Inho turned to his captain with wide eyes. "Sir, they're reporting ghost sightings across their entire fleet." The Indomitable's next attack proved even more terrifying to the alien invaders. She appeared directly above a Veltar battleship, her massive bulk blocking out the stars. But instead of firing immediately, the ghost ship hovered there like a predator studying its prey. Through the enemy vessel's transparent sections, the aliens could see human figures walking through their corridors. "Impossible," transmitted the battleship's captain. "There are humans aboard our ship, but they cast no shadows and leave no footprints. They walk through our bulkheads as if they were mist." The ghostly crew members moved with purpose through the alien vessel, their translucent forms examining weapon systems and engine compartments. Some Veltar crew members tried to flee, but found themselves face to face with the spirits of humans they had killed earlier in the battle. "They're looking at us," screamed one alien officer. "The dead. Humans are looking directly at us, and their eyes hold judgment." Lieutenant Sujin's sensor readings became even more bizarre. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures inside multiple enemy vessels. It's as if the Indomitable's crew has boarded their ships without actually leaving their own vessel." The psychological warfare was devastating. Veltar ships began firing wildly into empty space, their crews convinced they were under attack by enemies they couldn't see or touch. Friendly fire incidents erupted as panicked captains targeted anything that moved, including their own support. "Vessels! All ships maintain formation," Admiral Veltar commanded, but his voice carried notes of hysteria. "Do not fire unless you have confirmed target acquisition." Too late. The Veltar fleet was already fragmenting as individual ships broke ranks to escape the supernatural terror hunting them. Some vessels fled toward the system's edge, while others clustered together for mutual protection that would never come. The Indomitable chose that moment to demonstrate her most terrifying ability. She appeared simultaneously at 5 different locations throughout the enemy formation, each manifestation solid enough to deliver devastating weapons fire. The ghost ship had become a force multiplier beyond any military strategist's wildest dreams. "Admiral Veltar," came the voice of Captain Do-hyun Lee through the communication channels, as clear as if he were alive and speaking from his bridge. You came here to destroy innocent lives. Now you face the consequence of awakening something you cannot comprehend. You're dead, Veltar screamed back. I watched your ship die. I saw your bridge vaporized. Death is just another duty station, replied the ghost captain, and we humans never abandon our posts. The Indomitable's multiple manifestations began coordinating their attacks with military precision. Each version of the ship struck different targets simultaneously, creating a complex battle pattern that overwhelmed the alien fleet's ability to respond. The Veltar vessels found themselves caught in crossfire from enemies that existed in several places at once. Commander Inho gripped his console as they watched her enemy dreadnought simply vanish under the combined fire from 3 different versions of the Indomitable. Sir, their largest ship just disappeared. I'm not reading debris or energy signatures. It's like it was erased from existence. Dr. Minjung looked up from her instruments with terror in her eyes. Captain, the quantum fields around the Indomitable are growing stronger. Each enemy ship she destroys seems to add to her power. She's not just defeating them, she's consuming their very existence. The truth became clear as they watched the supernatural battle unfold. The ghost ship wasn't just fighting the Veltar fleet, she was judging them. Each enemy vessel that had participated in the attack on innocent civilians faced complete annihilation, while those that tried to withdraw were allowed to flee. Admiral. Veltar's flagship shuddered as the Indomitable materialized directly behind them, appearing out of quantum probability like a nightmare made real. Her guns were already charged and aimed with perfect precision at the alien command vessel's most vulnerable points. How is this possible? Veltar screamed, his compound eyes reflecting the energy building in the human ship's weapons. The answer came not in words, but in the devastating fire that tore through his flagship's shields as if they were made of tissue paper. The Veltar. Admiral's final moments were filled with the understanding that humans didn't just build warships from metal and technology. They forged them from duty, honor, sacrifice, and love for the innocent lives they protected. When those elements combined with the willing sacrifice of brave souls, they created something beyond the physical realm, something that could reach across the veil of death itself to continue the fight. As Admiral Veltar's ship broke apart around him, he finally grasped the truth the Galactic Council had dismissed as primitive superstition. Humans didn't just name their ships and honor their service. They gave them souls, and some souls burned bright enough to illuminate the darkness between life and death, becoming legends that would haunt the galaxy forever. The broken pieces of Veltar warships floated like dark shadows against the stars. Among them, the Indomitable drifted in silence, her hull cracked and burned but somehow still whole. The massive human battleship had fought impossible odds and won, though the cost had been everything. Commander Hyunwoo Kim's relief fleet arrived 3 days after the last distress signal. 50 ships strong, they had expected to find either victory or complete destruction. What they found instead defied every law of physics they knew. "Sir, I'm reading power signatures from the Indomitable," reported Lieutenant Chen from the sensor station. "Minimal, but definitely there. How is that possible?" Hyunwoo studied the tactical display. The ghost ship's reactor should have been cold metal by now. Captain Do-hyun Lee and his crew had been declared dead 48 hours ago when their life support finally failed. Yet somehow, the ship's lights still flickered in the darkness. "Take us in closer," Hyunwoo ordered, "but keep our shields up." As they approached, something incredible happened. The Indomitable's running lights began to pulse in a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. The massive ship's sensor array turned toward them, tracking their movement with impossible precision. "Commander," whispered Captain Yoonji Park from the destroyer Vigilant. "She's looking at us." The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the tactical screen, watching as the dead ship's weapon systems came online for a brief moment, then powered down again. It wasn't a threat. It was recognition. "Life support is completely gone," reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's chief medical officer. "No life signs aboard. The crew compartments are in vacuum, but the ship's core systems are somehow maintaining themselves on backup power that shouldn't exist." Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. He had known Do-hyun Lee for 20 years. The man had been stubborn in life, refusing to give up even when the odds were hopeless. Perhaps death hadn't changed that. "Sir, the ship is moving," announced the navigation officer. The Indomitable began a slow turn toward Kepler Station, her massive bulk rotating with grace that seemed impossible for something so damaged. Her engines flickered to life, not the brilliant blue of full power, but a soft, steady glow that pushed her forward through space. "Follow her," Hyunwoo commanded, "but maintain distance." As they watched, something even more impossible began to happen. The Indomitable's hull started to repair itself. Debris from the destroyed Veltar ships began moving toward her, guided by invisible forces. Metal plates fused together, covering the worst of the damage. Severed power cables reconnected, themselves sparking back to life. "The ship is literally rebuilding itself," Dr. Tanaka breathed. "Using enemy wreckage as raw materials. The molecular assemblers must be working overtime, but they should have shut down with the crew." Captain Yoonji Park's voice crackled over the communication channel. "I've seen enough impossible things today to last a lifetime." That ship died fighting for humanity, and somehow it's still fighting. The journey to Kepler Station took 6 hours. The Indomitable moved like a wounded animal heading home, her pace steady but labored. Behind her, the relief fleet followed, in respectful silence, bearing witness to something that would be talked about for generations. When they reached the station, the damaged orbital platform was already preparing for their arrival. The dock workers had cleared the largest bay, though everyone wondered if a ship without a crew could actually dock safely. They shouldn't have worried. The Indomitable approached the docking bay with the same skill Captain Lee had shown in life. Her maneuvering thrusters fired in perfect sequence, bringing her massive bulk to a gentle stop against the docking clamps. As the airlock sealed, something remarkable happened. The ship's lights began to pulse more brightly, and her internal systems hummed with renewed energy. The molecular assemblers worked faster now, drawing more material from the debris field that had followed them home. "She's not just repairing herself," observed Dr. Tanaka. "She's upgrading, adding armor plating, new weapon systems, improved shields. It's like she's preparing for the next battle." Admiral Jiang Wei, the station commander, boarded the Indomitable with a small team of engineers. What they found inside defied explanation. The ship was empty of life, but everything worked perfectly. The bridge stations responded to touch. The weapon systems ran diagnostic checks, and the navigation computer plotted courses to strategic points throughout human space. "It's like the ship is waiting," Admiral Jiang reported. "Waiting for orders, waiting for a crew, waiting for the next time humanity needs her." Word of the ghost ship spread throughout human space within days. Some called it impossible, others called it a miracle. The Veltar survivors who had fled the battle called it something else entirely. Proof that humans were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. In the weeks that followed, volunteers came from across the galaxy. Veterans who had served with Do-hyun Lee, young officers eager to serve aboard a legend, engineers fascinated by the ship's impossible technology. But the Indomitable remained selective. She would only accept those who understood what she represented, the unbreakable will of humanity to protect what mattered most. The galaxy had learned something important that day. Human ships weren't just machines of war. They were extensions of the human spirit, carrying the hopes and dreams and determination of their crews. And sometimes, when the need was great enough, that spirit could transcend even death itself. The Indomitable waited in her dock, her hull gleaming with new armor, her weapons ready for whatever threat might come. She had become more than a ship. She was proof that some things are too important to die, some duties are too sacred to abandon, and some crews will never truly leave their posts, no matter what the universe throws at them. The legend was real, and it was just beginning.